Are young girls empowered by the incessant over-sexualization of women, thereby basing their value on sexual and seductive prowess? Nah. Welcome to part 2 of my toxic femininity discussion. If you missed part 1, I'll put a card up with the link. And don't worry, I got something for the boys later. Let me start out by saying there's nothing inherently wrong with physical connection. But you don't need me to tell you that. It's part of human nature, the desire for connection and love. But can we really call this conducive to connection? The things that empower a woman exist strictly on an individual basis. There are some who find liberation in showing a little more skin and being overtly sexual, and there are others who don't. I'm not here trying to tell women how to live, how to dress, or how to think. But it's easy to notice the damage this hypersexual mentality can have on young, impressionable girls, and obviously young, impressionable boys. As with every widely accepted concept, there lies an invisible, double-edged sword. Push anything to the extreme and the results end up not the most ideal. In this case, the supposed empowerment of women in media via a highly sexual attitude. There was a time when female sexuality was highly suppressed, and in many parts of the world it still is. The need to fight this oppression was evident for women on the road to equal standing with men. The 1920s flappers were so revolutionary in style and mentality because of this, and 100 years later, we've reached the realm of extremes where young minors are exposed to harmful ideas about themselves and others around them. I'm gonna be a boomer for a second and say that music has played a huge factor in this. The nihilistic, self-destructive messages plugged into kids' ears over the last 20 or so years has, without a doubt, shortened the collective childhoods of an entire generation. Play enough shoot-'em-up tracks and sex songs and a kid will begin to believe what they hear, especially when their fellow peers are involved. It goes without saying that children emulate what they see, and if what little girls see on TV and in music is that they're rewarded and glorified for their promiscuity, then what do you think is gonna happen? Social media has seen a huge uptick in underage girls attempting to appear older than they are. Literal preteens are out here dressing up like grown women and seeking adult attention. If that doesn't ring any alarm bells, then A lot of women in the industry argue that what they do with their bodies and how they present themselves is their business. And that would be true if young girls weren't also watching the stuff they churned out. It's said that this kind of music and these kind of images are a way to take back female sexuality from men. But these gratuitous, leave nothing to the imagination acts aren't so different from the objectification and degradation of women in media pushed by men in the past. These women are just objectifying and degrading themselves, without male input, which is, at the end of the day, still harmful. Making men a non-factor in this highly sexual subculture doesn't erase the issue, it just puts a different face to it. And the fact that these women have such a far reach in terms of influence makes it all the more sinister that these things are allowed on airwaves and on screens. The young women and girls who follow these pillars of influence often don't ask the question, how much of this is truly genuine and how much is performative? Many women tell themselves they find it empowering to commodify their bodies to strangers, but in most cases, who is it actually for? The boys. We've been socialized to believe that connection without sex is prudish and vanilla, but sex without connection is such a powerful thing, revolutionary even. And these so-called role models aren't doing anything to correct this harmful notion. It's why relationships fail. It's why intimacy beyond hit it and quit it is on the decline. This distorted conception about power and sway has us lost in this new kind of power struggle. I'm not trying to shame any woman who finds joy in hooking up, but it can't be ignored that the divide between adult affairs and childish ones have narrowed. So much so that children start wanting to attract attention that they're not yet ready to handle. Girls especially are susceptible to this, as they are marked as the thing in the relationship. And based on this premise, they become all too willing to give something sacred away without yet knowing the weight of such a decision. Kids just aren't allowed to be kids, and girls shed their innocence far sooner than they have to because of ridiculous standards upheld by the influential few. Now, it's alluring to be jaded, uplifting to feel nothing, and empowering to dominate others. Worst case scenario, we all become objects to each other, possessions that none of us can understand beyond physical desire. Deeper connections, real relationships fall to the wayside, and true love dies. Men have been glorified in their circles for their sexual conquests, and now women are too. But the real issue isn't being addressed. Again, this new attitude is eerily similar to the attitude a lot of men had, and obviously still have, regarding the opposite sex. It's just another ego game, only now with more involvement by women. And now the unspoken question becomes, how can I grow my sense of power over others? But what do us ladies have to gain from this? How do these manufactured ideas help us? Short answer, they don't. When superficiality is praiseworthy and sex is reduced to a mere power act, what message does that send young people? That you have to have the biggest lips, biggest breasts, and the biggest butt to get in good with the crowd? That your status in society and your womanhood relies on sexual services? That all you have to be is pretty to get everything you want? That you're only powerful if you're selling yourself? How about all of the above? And all of the above is absolutely self-destructive and absolutely incorrect. It's time to reconsider what we think it means to be a powerful woman and what sentiments we want to install in Gen Z and beyond. Do we want to continue to destroy the self-esteems of young girls, or do we want to build them up with the idea that they're enough and that sex isn't the only means of connection? This isn't to demonize sex, obviously. It's what's got us all here, and it can be a beautiful thing. But these days, it too has been twisted by consumerist ideas, wherein enough is never enough and extreme isn't extreme enough. Balance is key, and it isn't the fault of one gender or the other for the state of the world. As adults, we all need to be held accountable for the things we call priorities. But enough about what I think. Where do you stand in this discussion? Don't be shy to drop a comment below, and if you like these chats, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to stay notified for future videos. Stay safe, stay curious, and don't forget to take the leap. Thanks for watching!